stopping by. We're going to talk about this painting here, which I have dubbed the Diver. Very original. Let's get started. So, talking about the painting process itself, I started off with the cuttlefish, actually only using two colors. I used quinacridone red and phthalo green blue shade. I started with just the quinacridone red, and as I were adding layers to the body and the tentacles, I would add a little bit of the phthalo green here and there, um, to mostly to mute out the red. So in the light it would be more vibrant, and in the shadow it would be more muted. Moving on to the diver, I used a large combination of different pigments, of different paints, to mix together the browns and sort of bronze tones for the metal on the apparatus and on the helmet. While I don't specifically remember which paints I used, I know that it was at least quinacridone gold, burnt umber, and perhaps a combination of cool or warm primaries to build a base brown, and then using the quin gold or burnt umber to amplify it in either direction. One thing I noticed when laying down the brown paint is that it went down so incredibly vibrant, and then as it dried, it would dull out. And at first, when I was watching it dull as it dried, I was a little bit concerned. But looking at it in hindsight now, I actually have the painting right in front of me. I think the dulling out of the pigment actually adds to the atmosphere of the piece, almost adding to the effect there is water in between us and the subjects. One thing I wish I would have done on the diver specifically is I wish I would have paid better attention to the minute details, like for example, the glove on the right hand feels like a flat 2D shape in the finished painting. And while as an artist I could just say that that's a stylistic choice, unfortunately it wasn't when I was putting the painting together. So that's one thing I can take with me moving forward, is that I want to pay better attention to smaller details. One thing I struggled with specifically when I first approached art as something I wanted to do professionally is how light works. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that, because when I started school, that was a big portion of my perspective class, is learning about how light not only affects the way we render objects, but the way we can plot it in the 3D space on a 2D surface. And lastly, before we get on to the rest of what I'd like to talk about in this video, with the water, as you'll see towards the end of this video, I started with the single layer, and I actually did want to stop there, but as it dried, I noticed that it wasn't a big enough contrast between the subjects, that it was kind of muddying the piece, and so I added a second layer, which, while I was laying it down and watching it dry, it added an extra texture that I didn't predict and therefore didn't really want in the beginning. But now looking at it again in front of me, it does kind of add a little bit of visual entertainment, I'm gonna call it that, because I can't remember the words I'm looking for. Overall, you're seeing me paint this piece because I'm happy with the way it turned out. Now there was a big chance, actually I'm not going to call it a big chance, there was a chance that I wasn't going to do this video. I had recorded the painting in good faith that I would produce the video. I actually told some of my patrons over on Patreon that I was working on it, and that actually was kind of what motivated me to say, okay, now I can't just sit on it, I have to get it done, even if it's going to be a little bit late. But I was shaking in my boots, I was nervous, and for a number of factors. Of course I was worried. I was like, okay, what if the painting's a flop? What if I don't like the way it turns out? What if it's an arduous amount of work to edit the video, to record it, record the voiceover, to put together all the extras just to get some 10 to 15 minute video out onto YouTube. Not to mention having to hear my own voice when editing their voiceover, because like every other human on the planet, I hate the sound of my own voice. But it does. I am a little bit more comfortable knowing that just about everyone else feels the same way. And one thing I thought about in the midst of all that nervous energy is that hesitation is not only a natural response, but it can be and often is a necessary one. Now, I'm actually quite glad that I hesitated. The reality is I wanted to have this video done a month ago, but it didn't happen because I hesitated. I hesitated more than once, but that gave me the opportunity to stop and think, not only about whether or not I wanted to, but how I was going to. It gave me opportunities to be a little more creative and cunning about my approach to recording, to putting together really a template for future videos, which is really what I wanted this video to serve as. I wasn't and still am not very concerned about the quality, both in the video quality, the audio quality, everything. It was mostly just to be the start, to be the catalyst of something that hopefully would become considerably easier. And as I've noticed working through all the edits and putting together a lot of the elements for this video is that I will be able to pretty much use this as a template, which gives me not only a lot of hope but a lot of excitement for what I can produce in the future. Whenever I get something done, I'm always thinking about, okay, how can I make it 100 times more, 100 times better, which admittedly is not the best way to think, but I give myself that allowance because feeling excitement it's a good thing. It's a good thing, especially in art. If you're an artist, you should be getting excited about your art and what you can do with your art. And back onto the topic of hesitation and new beginnings, as I've briefly considered titling this video, I was thinking about the different ways one can go about starting something. And the first of which is the Shia LaBeouf method, if I can call it that. As we remember from a while ago, he recommended we just do it. And I respect that. There are a lot of circumstances in which just doing it is the right way to go about it. It is the appropriate method. Consider wanting to start working out in the mornings when you know you have the time and the availability and the energy. The hesitation is really just thinking, why shouldn't I? Or what excuse could I make up? What excuse could I make up not to? And so just doing it, not thinking about it and going and doing it, it's the better option because you're not losing anything. There's no massive consequence to either doing it or not doing it. So the worst thing that could happen is that you learn something. Now, in other situations, consider fixing your car. You shouldn't just go do it. As a matter of fact, I would argue you can't just go do it. My car is currently in a state of slight disrepair, and I am not in a position where I can just go fix it. I don't know how to. I don't know where to start. And that kind of brings me into the second method, actually the method I took to get here, to YouTube. And that's to think about it and to plan it. And I'm not a visionary or a genius for saying this. And I'm not the first person to come up with this thought and this method. And it's a considerably common method to start something, is to think about it and plan it. And it ties in heavily to my personality. I am a heavy thinker, not in the sense that I'm some super genius, but more so that I'll rather call it an overthinker. I'm an overthinker. And so that's what I did when I started thinking about starting a YouTube channel. Is I overthought about it, and I told myself every way it could go wrong, and really every way it could go right as well. And I weighed the odds on that, and then I had to come to the conclusion that it really wasn't about that. And so I had to weigh more practical odds, like, okay, how much time is it going to really take out of my day, week, month to put out consistent videos? What's the learning curve to figuring out the video editing software? What kind of money am I going to have to invest into this? Getting a microphone or buying software or anything. And I realized that with a lot of those practical concerns, most of them worked out in my favor. I was able to find a video editing software for free. I'm using DaVinci Resolve 16 at the moment, and it's a fantastic software. I'm loving it to death. I was able to buy a microphone off of my neighbor for way less than it would cost retail. And like I said previously, is almost all of the hard work that has gone into this video will transfer right over into the second one and into the third. And then anytime I decide something needs to be updated or fixed or improved upon, I can do it just at that level. Consider the music. At the beginning of the video and the music you'll hear at the end, I wrote those songs and I recorded them myself. So if I decide at some point they're not the quality I want them to be at, I can re-record them. And I can record them at the quality I need them to be. And I can stick them in the video right in the place of their former selves. So while I know I still have a lot to learn when it comes to putting these videos together, because I know I'm still going to have to go back and edit all this audio, I think I will be able to publish videos consistently, like was my original goal. And I'm excited for that. And in the topic of moving forward, I've also, like every other artist, I want to be more of an artist. Specifically with watercolor, I want to play more with what makes watercolor watercolor. That's the contrasts, the translucency, the vibrancy, the effect it has of like layering panels of glass. I want to play more with what that is like, because I think I have a habit when I'm painting with watercolor of trying to fit a round peg into a square hole, and I'm really just kicking myself for doing that. That's one of my primary goals when it comes to painting. And I know one of my shortcomings, one of my pitfalls, is backgrounds and sceneries. I almost never paint backgrounds. So I know, okay, that's something that in the immediate future I can tackle, both compositionally and with painting. Because I know it's going to take separate skills for both. And I'm actually quite excited to learn and to implement them. And lastly, I do want to inject more story into my paintings, because that's why I arrived at art. It's because I originally wanted to be a storyteller, and I decided quite early on that I didn't want to be restricted to just words. I wanted to have visuals. And here, as an adult, as someone who'd like to consider himself a professional, I want to do that well. I want to do it professionally. And as a professional, I want to move towards consistent uploads on YouTube, like I've consistently said through this video. And that's going to take me making a habit of the different processes that it takes to put a video together. And that's going to take time. I'm going to make mistakes, and that's okay. I'm ready to make mistakes. And sort of in closing, why I want to continue to make videos, why I want to consistently make videos, is because one of my major goals as an artist is to become more involved in the art community. And I think one of the greater places to do so is here on YouTube. Some of my favorite artists, some of the artists that I admire most, I've discovered on YouTube. And actually, quite recently, some of the artists I admire most from other platforms have started to make YouTube channels. And I want to jump on that wave. I want to be part of the party. I I am looking forward to that sense of inclusion. And I also look forward to including others along the way. If I am to continue to grow as a YouTuber or on this platform, I look forward to the opportunities to lift someone up and to take someone up with me. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thanks for listening to me ramble. Thanks for watching me paint, and I look forward to seeing you next time.